Hey, I'm Cliff.
And I'm Susan.
And welcome to the Cliff and Susan podcast.
We are here in Santa Barbara, California with the owners of the Red Piano, and we're excited to have them on. We're going to talk about piano bars, the heartbeat of piano bars. But real quick, we are a music duo, a married music duo from Little Rock, Arkansas. We travel the world doing over 200 shows, and this podcast is just to help you guys see a little bit of what our lives are like as musicians. We like to share businesses. We also like to share other musician stories. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome Jason Jones and Colin Campbell. Thank y'all for being here today.
Thanks for having
We didn't have any choice.
Yeah, well, I know. So
we're here no matter what.
So we're at the end of our contract. We're here all of July every year in Santa Barbara playing at the Red Piano. And we were walking to work yesterday, and I was like, wait a minute, we haven't done a podcast in a minute, and we both have been working on projects to further our businesses. And I thought this is a great topic for a podcast discussion. So we'll just start jumping right into the questions that I have. And I mean, first, I think the story that you guys have on how you met and how this whole Red Piano started years ago, and I think it's been over 20 years. So correct me if I'm wrong, but when did this get started? How did y'all meet? And I know Cliff has never even heard this story.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to just learn the real true history of it all. I mean, I was lucky enough to get brought on, and it's almost been 10 years that I've been coming to the St. Martin. How crazy is that?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's tricky to figure out all the intricacies of that startup because we were wasted half the time. Right?
Partying. Well, I think we all were on some level partying when we found the piano bars of the bar scene, right?
This was still pre-Facebook when you were coming down, I think.
Yeah, I started in
It's
2011.
MySpace.
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of evidence that didn't get put on the internet, thankfully.
Right.
It's probably saving our marriages today. But I don't know. I moved down there before. When did you?
Yeah, I got there in '99. I finished up school, and I'd worked for Club Med before I went to college, and I wasn't that into college. And as soon as I was done, a buddy of mine called me up and said he was going to the Caribbean to buy a beach bar. Did I want to come? And we found a spot in St. Maarten for sale, and then I had 2 hurricanes in the first 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
He went home right away, and I was like, it got sailing. I mean, I only came here with nothing, and everybody else after 2 hurricanes has nothing, so we're on a pretty level playing field. And the community was amazing, and I just really connected with some really good people.
Awesome.
And was open to the idea of, I'd always had that entrepreneurial spirit, and just open to whatever. And I was doing some construction, some office work, some boat building, whatever, just helping people. And it led into the first bar I worked at and lived aboard, which was the Lady Sea Floating Bar.
Wow, and they're on right outside of St. Maarten.
Right on the lagoon. They were at the time right on the lagoon in Simpson Bay.
Oh, right next to the bridge.
Yeah.
It was a 75-foot old wooden boat that Mike didn't want to day charter anymore, and all his friends came over to drink anyway, so we turned it into a bar. And I ended up sleeping on board for 2.5 years or something.
Oh, wow.
Sure.
It used to be out at anchor.
So was that the other side of the yacht club? On the other side?
It
of
was
the
right
bridge?
next to the yacht.
It was
right
Yeah.
there.
That's where Brian worked.
Yeah.
He worked at Lady Sea.
After we
He
left,
worked at the yacht
yeah.
club.
It's cool.
Yeah,
I
I got
love
him
it.
the job at the yacht club.
Yeah.
Like in Ian Hobross,
Yeah.
And so that was, and then one of the girls I was working with, the first bartender at Lady Sea, ended up leaving, and I'd been bartending a little bit by then, and took a bigger role, and we were looking for more people, and I'd met Jay by then, which was, I don't know, 2000 and,
Yeah, I was coming there drinking with you.
Yeah.
I get off work at the sports bar.
2002, which is when you got there.
So what brought you to St. Martin?
I was working corporate nightclubs back in St. Louis. I just was ready for a change. I needed to get out of there. And I had a buddy that, like, my mom had come down to St. Martin years before. She always said it was great. But I was like, it's my mom, right? I mean, it's going to be a bunch of old people down there. And I was like, nah. But I met one of my buddies at a bar one night who was actually a nationally ranked kickboxer. He's an amazing guy. And he was like, dude, I just came back from St. Martin. That place is amazing. I was like, good. That's good enough for me.
Yeah. Right.
A couple weeks later, I was going to come down for 2 weeks and just hang out, do a little Jack Kerouac,
Yeah.
do some island hopping. But I literally got down there the that day, the sun had gone down, and I got off the plane. I didn't have any place to go, nothing planned at all. I just took a plane and went down. And I jumped into a cab. I was like, can you take me to a decent hotel? I was like, anything that's just not a roach motel, you know? How much you want to spend? I was like, at least $100 a night. He's like, sure. So he took me down and stayed at a little, I can't remember the name of the place, across where the McDonald's was. Across the street from
Simpson
Rick's
Bay.
place.
Oh yeah,
Travel Inn?
Travel.
Travel Inn. And
Which wasn't the flag Travel Inn. It was just a knockout.
it was a total knockoff. But didn't see one roach. Wish we could. So I went down, and there was a reception area that was behind bulletproof glass and all. So I guess it wasn't that nice. And I was like, where's a guy like me going to catch a drink in a place like this, right? And they said, well, there's a Mexican restaurant there where there's an American sports bar. And so I went, no, I'll go with what I know. And I went to the American sports bar and hung out in there for a little bit and got to know the bartender and told him my story. Like, check out that hotel. I'll come get you tomorrow morning. Come stay with us. We got a huge place. Went over and stayed with them. And that was Will. Will, big giant, back in Florida. And that same night, they were actually looking for a bartender because the owners there worked a lot hands-on, and they were trying to back off a little bit. And so they said, well, you know what, we've got a dart league night that we do in the back there, and it's only on Thursdays if you want to come and bartend. I was like, sure, I have nothing going on. So that's what ended up leading to a 13-year stay in
Yeah.
St.
So when did the piano bar happen? So I know that y'all both were bartending, and at some point the piano bar evolved into a thing.
Well, we were looking for a beach bar,
Okay.
and I was still at Lady C, probably 5, 6 years into that, and it was just getting a little stale. And Jay was at Sunset Beach Bar, so we were in two pretty big spots, and I found some guys who were coming to the bar regularly were out of Florida, but they were managers of one of the timeshare resorts, and we got along really well, and ended up getting a handshake deal for a beach bar in front of Flamingo Resort, I think. I forget what it was. Yeah, I think it was Flamingo. It wasn't Pelican, it was the other one.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, great, handshake. And I went off and I told Jay, and we're super stoked, and I let the boss know that I was done, and I was going on a sailing delivery to be gone for about a month, and when I got back, I'd be starting a new project. Come back, and I didn't get anything on paper from those guys. Came back in a month, the deal had evaporated, they stopped answering my emails.
Oh no.
Meanwhile, I'd quit my job. And so that's when we started talking more seriously about, okay, what are we going to do? And I got offered my job back, but literally in front of all the staff they hired, and I was like, you can't go backwards.
Yeah.
So let's keep going forwards. And I took little side projects, but I really didn't work for a full year while we searched all over St. Martin, Dutch side, French side, Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis. And then
all over the Caribbean.
about 6 months into that, you ended up.
Because I was working probably 3 jobs. I was working Lady C, Sunset, and Rick's Place, and Sopranos. Those were 4 jobs at one time. Because I worked at that piano bar up there for a while at Sopranos.
You didn't work at Lady C after I left, though, did you?
Not after you left.
Yeah.
No. And I don't know where I was going with it.
Well, no,
No, the primary one was was Sunset, and you were.
Then I ended up managing it there. I
Yeah,
had to quit all the other places.
yeah.
But
the piano bar, I mean,
So 6 months into my time off, though,
Y'all were talking about
Yeah,
scouting.
is when you
Yeah.
when you go. You get
Yeah.
punted.
yeah, I got fired from this one. John Rehack. Do you remember John Rehack, the crazy owner of Sunset Beach Bar?
no, I don't
A
know.
little
That
bit
was
out,
a
but
maniac, right?
but
He
yeah.
fired a lot of good people.
Oh well.
And I was one of them. And that's when we took the year off, basically.
There's 6 more months, I think.
Is it 6 more months?
Yeah, I took a full year. You took 6.
It's more than 6 months.
Anyway, somewhere in there.
So
It was
Sopranos came first.
So I was
As
working
far
at
as
Sopranos, and then I had stopped working there, and I was going to hang out there with my friend Alex. I don't know if you remember Alex,
I do.
the giant,
Mhm.
tall
Yeah.
Dutch guy. And we would stay there till 5 or 6 in the morning, just
Mhm.
him and I drinking and pounding, and found out that his friend and old business partner had a piano bar that they opened up in Pelican. And Colin and I went there and saw it. And we're like, yeah, we weren't that crazy about it. I mean,
The
we
staff
thought
was
the
terrible. The piano player was
sucked.
drunk and under the piano.
Frankie G.
he
like,
was literally under the piano at midnight.
Well, he used to make bologna sandwiches before the drunken,
All the guests.
before he'd pass out. It was
that was the best. At the
well,
very
much
end.
love to Frankie G.
Yeah.
He's doing fine and well these days.
Well, when
Not
this is
long.
going to fast forward a little bit, but when we bought Red Piano and took over, there was an existing contract for almost 2 full months with Frankie G.
Uh-huh.
And we were so apprehensive, and we called Pat. I mean, there was no way to talk him out of the contract.
It was almost a deal breaker for the piano bar itself.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's
If you didn't keep- if you didn't get-
he's our first piano player.
Right.
Do we really want
Do
this?
we want
boss?
this thing?
Right.
You know, because
And-
we hated him.
But just no, spoiler alert. I'm sure we'll get into this later,
Yeah.
but Frankie G became one of your main guys.
Well,
So-
that's what I
Yeah.
was getting at.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I think it was probably everybody's meeting.
Yeah.
It was me and Jay and a cleaning lady and a piano player. We were our entire staff for months. And Frankie
That's
would see
good.
these parties go off, and he would get so into them that he'd just be throwing, like lighting the piano on fire,
Uh-huh.
throwing the biggest party ever. And then he'd look over and kind of like, yeah, I need a smoke break anyway. We'd throw on some music. He'd jump in and wash dishes while he's smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
And then he'd finish his smoke, finish some dishes for us, and then he'd
He'd
jump
see us
back
getting our
on.
asses handed to
Yeah.
us.
I
And
love
be
it.
like, holy shit, let me get in there and help
That's
these
a
guys out
true
because we're
team
running out
player.
of yeah.
Oh, unbelievable.
above and
dude. There was
beyond.
no
We made shirts for the guy.
Yeah.
Team
Yeah.
player shirts.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was a true team player there. Man. It was great.
a legend.
So you mentioned Pat, and I like just to pause for a second just to explain. You work with Pat George, the entertainment agency, and it's cool to know that he was in the beginning. I didn't realize he was the beginning agent
Oh, yeah.
that screens your
Sopranos?
players. No, we're talking about the piano bar that y'all started with
Yeah.
Frankie G. Did y'all call it the Red Piano?
It was already the red piano, so
Okay.
it's another story there where it's the guy that had it that he wanted to open up. He had another project he wanted to open,
Okay.
and so he wanted to sell red piano that he had already had. He's the guy that he had a few businesses on the island that he took the names from. He had a
Mhm.
place called Baywatch,
Sure.
and he had Sopranos, obviously,
Uh-huh.
Now bada bing.
and then he had Bada
Oh.
Bing. So,
And-
so when he got red piano, I mean, he had went to Vegas and saw Elton John's show,
Okay.
and literally
Oh,
took the logo
interesting.
and everything and completely copied it.
Oh, wow.
So when we took it over, we're like, we're probably gonna get in some trouble for this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is in St. Martin. I know they're like the ESPN bar kind of had a little thing too.
They did,
Like you
they
can't,
had-
you can
had
get
that
internationally, you can still get in trouble with
Yeah,
trademarks. Yeah,
So we just kind of, I trademarked the name and then we rebranded it.
I love
Yeah,
it.
So
Was Pat booking Sopranos or no?
yeah,
Okay, that's what I
yeah,
was thinking.
he was booking both of them
Yeah.
at the time because he was friends with Yop, who's the guy that started both of them.
So from that time frame when Frankie G, the four of y'all, I love this so much because I didn't know all these stories. It's so cool. At some point, you're like working with Pat to start booking it out. When I know these are month-long contracts. Was that kind of like where things? How did it evolve from Frankie G, the two of you, and a cleaning lady to, let's say, 10 years into it, where y'all had more of a fine-tuned or well-oiled machine of players coming through and that kind of business model? What were the challenges, and just how did you get to that point?
Was there a plan of a model, or did it just?
We were completely reactionary.
Yeah.
Shooting from the hip.
Yeah.
Our plan was a beach bar.
Yeah.
That was our plan.
The opening night was we just went and stocked a few cases of beer and grabbed some rum
Yeah,
and called a couple friends, and they called all their friends. And
yeah.
our opening
Yeah,
night
we opened
was-
in September, peak hurricane season. Nobody on the island.
Stayed open until we
And-
ran out of beer.
Yeah,
You know?
Right.
we got the keys on Friday. We threw a party on Sunday. It was our first opening.
Yeah, which is what was it? It was
It was
I was looking at a picture on my phone.
September 10th or something.
Yeah, September 10th, I think it was. So
So I go back to that vision of Frankie G pounding on the piano, and let's talk about the concepts and the core principles of a piano bar and why y'all think. I would love to hear in your words why you think piano bars work so well, just from either the way the bartenders, deliver the drinks, all the way to the performance, the nature of the show. What do you think is like the secret sauce to piano bars?
I don't know. I think music is the key
Yeah.
to it. I mean, anybody can open a bar.
Sure.
And I've been through plenty of corporate bars, blues clubs. I mean, I've worked at a lot of different venues, and I just, I recognize it was a good model, and working in other piano bars, and seeing the engagement that you can get versus just that dive bar when you're just talking to the bartender. It's more it's more fulfilling. I mean, it's
It's
more
a different energy.
vibrant.
It's
you
a
know,
it's a big show.
Right.
You're walking in, and everywhere you look is a show. Whether it's the other guests and what they're doing,
I love
or
that.
the piano player, or the team behind the bar on the floor. It's just, I mean, we our signature giant back bar. You can just, that's part of it. It's the abundance. It's a cartoon everywhere you look.
That's interesting because I think of it just throw like I think my answer to that question is well it's the nature of the all request and it's a constant and popular music and a variety show and it's the music but what differentiates piano bar to me from just a like a cover band somewhere which is can be entertaining is that interaction sing along
engagement.
and that level but to hear you say it's a cartoon in every corner.
Well, like
Or-
some of the stuff Jay captured last weekend when you guys were playing, that bachelorette party that was back here,
Yeah.
15 girls all dressed up and guys, there were a couple of guys in there, but all dressed in white. I mean, it was a whole scene back here.
Yeah.
We can't even tell sometimes
I
what's
mean,
going on.
it
Yeah.
was they were making their own party, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they were attention grabbing for anybody that was looking around the room, and there was a couple of little pockets like that where you could just. And I mean, I was down in St. Martin for Heineken Regatta this, and I went, and I know Monday night's not the piano bar, but the Monday night show they do there, where it's still the Red Piano energy.
Mhm.
The pockets of cartoons everywhere were exactly
love that.
the same.
And
I like.
go ahead.
I just want to say I like what you said. You know, kind of. It's you can go to a bar that has some music, and like you said, you're talking to the bartender, you're talking to each other. But for a piano bar, it's you walk in and now you're a part of the community.
Right.
It's like you're now a part of the show. You walk in
part of the show.
Yeah.
and it's welcome. You know, like a
Yeah.
lot of good piano bar entertainers. They'll see someone new walking in and immediately.
I mean, and you saw when I popped the light on them. You know,
Right.
I lit this whole area. They lit up because they were on stage.
Mhm.
You know, they had to start performing,
Yes.
so they were part of the show right there.
Yeah.
And
that's
that's
why.
another thing that you understand.
Yeah,
And
and that's
lighting
why
is good, too.
I've always, well, anytime we've done it, I've always made sure that our lighting guy gave me a spot that I could spot up every seat in the place.
That is so huge. I think more piano bars should do that, and I
Yeah.
think that they. Well, I just love how your passion for the show to be right behind us. I don't know if other piano bar players are like a little like intimidated by that, but I love it because it's a team, and you're right behind us, and I'm like, I'll look at you, I'll say, hey, what do you think? Or you might be like, hey, don't forget to do this.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
you've got the lighting, and you're lighting, you're strobe lighting when he's on the piano,
Yeah,
rocking
sure.
devil and all that. It's just so cool.
It's a good,
Really
good
cool.
aspect to bring more value
Mhm.
to your. You know, you pay $10 to get in, $20 to get in. I
Right.
think you have an amazing
And
time.
I think creating memorable moments has been something I see you guys using, and we
Magic moments.
magic moments.
Yeah.
Magic. I love that, and I've taken different courses and read books about the moments in a show, and I think that's another kind of good lens to think through as you're taking them on a journey throughout the night. What are the tools in our tool belt to use to like create those moments? Is it lighting? Is it variety of music? Making a character out of someone, having them dance like Elvis, or you used to get people on the piano.
Yeah,
Don't do
yeah.
that anymore, liability reasons.
We got in trouble
that
for
was that was something that happened and still does in the Caribbean, but I think you can get away with
you
more
can
in
get
the
away with it
Caribbean
down
than
there
you
a lot
can.
more.
No, there's not, liability lawsuits are a lot different.
Yeah, and some of the stuff I've seen on that piano down there, I can't even tell. I can't even put on
Not
a
for
video.
this podcast.
Not for
Yeah.
this podcast. I'm sure you guys, from the door to your security, to your greeter, to your bartenders, to the piano players, to what y'all are doing literally in the club on the weekends, I'm sure you train. Like, how do you explain to your personnel and train them to make sure they're all on the same page? Because it truly is a team from the door to the back to the piano players. It's not just
Yeah.
one
I mean,
person.
And there's always been such a great team here
Yeah.
and in St. Martin.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to train that support.
It's always been lead by example.
Yeah.
So far, we're actually
Any organization,
we're
really.
in the process of trying to figure out a way to train it and have other people train it and replicate it as we try and expand a little bit.
Mhm.
And just the ability for us to be behind the bar and on the floor anymore is evolving. So we want to try and bottle that secret sauce.
Scale that is the trouble whenever
It
you
really
are
is.
the
It really
secret
is.
sauce.
And
It's the hardest part.
Finding
You know,
people, I
it's-
think,
it's
is the main thing, right? The right people.
teaching somebody different personality. You know, how do you do that? Even a piano player. you
Yeah.
know, I had some amazing piano players. I'm not even going to say their names because I know they'll probably see this, but
Mhm.
there's some of them that we'll just sit there and play piano and do just the sheet music and the song, and that's it. No engagement, nothing, you know. But some of the best vocals and the best piano playing I've ever seen.
I just got chills because that really is what I think a lot of people don't understand.
One guy in particular,
Yeah.
I'll tell you later.
Yeah.
Like, he's so amazing. Like,
Straight
it's
robot.
almost like he's like
Yeah, like
Autistic savant.
or Asperger's, whatever.
Yeah, sure.
You know, that he just, after that crushing a song, just
Yeah.
shuts down.
yeah.
What's the next song?
Yeah.
So I want to talk to y'all about this because this goes into I want y'all to, because you saw me when I was in Vegas doing dueling pianos, and so Pat and I found each other, Pat George of the entertainment agency. And when I moved to Vegas, I had been the female on a male-dominated team for many years. When Arkansas, Branson, LA, and then I moved to Vegas. When I got to Vegas, they were like, "Why don't you know Benny and the Jets and Piano Man?" And they're like, "You can't," because I was told just to play the girl songs for many years. So when I realized I was deficient in my repertoire, I was like, So when I found out I could go and take a month long of contract with y'all. And just like with my iPad, of course, but I was like, I'm just going to get in there and woodshed my show, and I'm going to figure it the hell out, you know?
Yeah.
And so that was whenever. So I was super green. And so I would say I probably lean more into my personality than most. But two questions. One is I'd love for you to talk about what you saw in a green Susan now, and I've evolved since 13 years ago when I met y'all. And then also, to your point about the performers, I think when I met Cliff, he was he was fantastic musician and vocalist, but he had to come out of his shell as a performer. So I think it can be done with the right coaching. So first question first, what, when you see a green player, what have you seen me evolve, and what would you say was the good and the bad of that since when I
There's some of the green players that we haven't brought back.
Okay.
Because they just don't have it. You had a lot of personality with it. You could back it up with engagement in between the songs.
Sure.
And talking to people and I'll say it again. It's like that, and I'm going to quote Frankie G. You can completely bomb a song, but if you put that big ending on it, people forget.
Trash can ending.
Just kill it, and he'll stand up and demand applause. And it's those kind of interactions that, to me, even with a bartender, you can make a crappy drink, but if you're
But super likable.
How do you
If
recover?
you got a
How
great
do you?
personality and you tell me a great joke, or
Yeah.
or send me to a great restaurant, do something cool.
Yeah.
It gives way to that stuff.
Mhm.
So
I have a question. So, I feel like obviously nostalgia lends a lot to, those were the days, that was the best back then. But how do you feel the shows, like the peak shows back in the days of opening the Red Piano in St. Martin, how do they truly compare to the best shows that you've had here in St. Barbara?
it's funny because we've been getting a lot of coaching lately from a mutual coach, and I think it was him that said it. He was like, "These are the good days.
100%.
These are the good old days."
Yeah, I think
Right now.
I think these parties we're throwing here are exponentially better than the parties we were throwing down there.
I think we still threw. There's some moments down there that I think there's only 2 or 3 where we actually got super chills from the crowd roaring and erupting, the place just going completely apeshit.
Yeah.
And it's only happened a few times. It happened with you once. It happened with Frankie G once. There was one other one here, I think, that maybe it was Tim Bowie.
or Sarah, maybe.
Do you remember what it was? Or was it a
It
certain?
was just. I remember Frankie G's in particular because it was just one of the end of those big songs that he did, and the place was just ram packed, and he just absolutely nailed it by himself, and just. He's such a showman. I mean, when he finishes that song, he stands up and gets up on, and you better fucking applaud. Like crazy, because he'll pull it out of you, and it's those are extremely magical moments when you get goosebumps. You're like, oh goddamn, we're doing something right.
Yeah.
I think back then we didn't know what we didn't know either, so it was like
True.
we were throwing the best party we were capable of, and it was magic.
Yeah.
But as you grow and you evolve, you're like, well, how do we level up? How do we do that more consistently? How do we affect more people?
Yeah.
How do we just all that stuff where
I can't imagine seeing the first show that we ever did down there. just going as us now
Yeah.
to go watch
I was-
this as a fly on the wall to watch this show.
Well, and there's a level of alcohol involved in all for all of us back in those days that I feel like it was fun, and I think the personalities we were because of some of that. But I definitely think to sustain long term, you got to find some healthy habits.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know what? When y'all are looking for performers, I mean, I know a lot of the people who are going to watch this podcast and listen are going to be interested in work, and I've already got a lot of my colleagues who are in dueling. Like, man, I would like to do it, and I'm trying to develop resources to help them understand. You know, dueling is one thing, but it's a piano bar still. But pacing your show as a solo performer is a whole new mental space. So, what are y'all looking for? You know, when you're looking for new talent, and how do you scout them? What do you need from them? What would you give advice to someone?
Good video.
Good video.
Yeah.
For the love of God. Good video.
And print photos.
Print photo.
So, I mean, when I'm watching a video, I can figure out about 30 seconds if I'm going to bring that player or not.
This is really good, and I want to get to the nuts and bolts of this because
Yeah.
this is huge, and I know how huge it is, and I try to convey this, and I feel like I'm on a soapbox when I get into our Entertainers Academy. I'm like, video, and here's how. So, you know, I always say lead with your best material first. How important is the quality, meaning like that it looks like it's like some great camera and all of that?
I want to be able to drop it on our website, on our social media, so that before you even get here, before we have a chance to film
Okay.
you here, I want to have stuff that we can pre-promote. A, vet and know that what we're getting when we sign
Okay.
up for it, and B, let's pre-promote. Day one, we want to hit the ground running when you get here. You got 30 days,
Sure.
and we need to pay for your apartment, your flight,
Mm-hmm.
your
And make money.
check, and everything else.
Yeah.
And it comes back. I mean, that's the next step where Jay does a lot of the vetting and then all that booking,
Sure.
where we're both looking at the whole team's here to sell drinks.
Mhm.
It's not about their side projects about progressing our bartending careers, our business careers, our music
Sure.
careers. Those are side projects of the month.
Mm-hmm.
The month's goal is to create magic moments,
Like-
see if we can move the needle on profits and,
Sure.
and growth.
So important is what it is important. And so, you know, whenever you're looking at a video, quality is important. What do you need? Crowd engagement. So you're probably looking for an experienced performer who's had crowd work done. This isn't a newbie getting into the industry. This is somebody who's got some tenure behind them to be able to command a crowd. I mean, I know you're late night shifts. You're not going to take a huge, I would assume you're not going to take a big risk on someone who's super green unless, let's talk about that. When you can't find somebody who's got, you know, when do you take a risk and what do you look at when you're maybe like, okay, this person's new, but I like this one thing that I think they can handle if they'll get in here and listen to me, or what are those things that you're looking at there?
So, a lot of times it's word of mouth. You know, I'll reach out to you. I'll
Sure.
reach out to some of you guys and
Mhm.
say, "Have you guys ever heard of this person?" You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we found Jason Libbs through Frankie G.
One of the, yeah. It's you have to, like, when I'm going through the videos, and like I said, I can do it in 30 seconds. I can figure out if they're going to
Sure.
work or not. There's some of them that aren't necessarily as good as the green ones, and if they do have that bad video, it doesn't mean they're a bad piano player, right?
Mhm.
And I can watch it. I can try and catch those little magic, you know,
Mm-hmm.
nuggets in there where I see them and have really good engagement. It makes it much more difficult for me, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll definitely take less of a risk
Sure.
if I have to dig that hard.
Mhm. So, but just to echo what you're saying, you're looking for them the ability to engage a crowd. It's not how great they sound singing and playing their instrument. It's in addition to that, it needs to be that you're seeing that they can work with the
They need to
crowd.
correct-
There's a base.
Yeah. I mean, you know, every single person that's ever tried to play here that has emailed me personally, every time I send them back a response, I need to see a video of you performing in front of people.
Got it. Okay.
I
Good to
need
hear.
to see how you engage with people because
Perfect.
it's so important. You know, I mean, you could be Elton John sitting there playing the piano, and if you're just an asshole in between songs, you're not going
Or
to
a
engage
Stonewall,
people,
yeah.
or just,
Yeah.
you know, it's stoic.
Mhm.
You know, it doesn't work here.
Mhm.
You know,
Well, one of the things I want to, you know, encourage those who are hearing this that may be starting out and they haven't worked with the crowd yet is there are ways that you can work with us and get into the industry where you, one of the best ways is to, you know, reach out to us in the Entertainers Academy and help you with like the the concepts, and we're developing a product called Learn Piano Bar, and it's going to be launched at the beginning of 2025. And I'm working with several agencies and other performers to put together a really good product for, say, kids out of Berkeley who can sing and play piano. But the next obvious step, I think, is cruise ships, because cruise ships probably will take a little bit more of a risk.
Yeah.
Their whole business model is not determined on whether or not the piano bar is lucrative. It's just, it's part of the big experience. And so it's a 2 to 3 month contract, but if we can ready them with the right set list, get on a cruise ship, go woodshed your show, get some of that crowd interaction video, and then reach out to an agency that would book with y'all. I think that's the natural
Good
step.
camera, right?
Yeah.
I mean, given this iPhone, I mean, you can, if you're on a cruise ship somewhere, grab one of the guys that's working, grab a bar back or somebody that's working on the ship. Say,
Somebody
hey,
that's not drunk.
I'm going to crush this song real quick. Can you just record it for me?
Sure.
You know,
And I've got-
and just tell them to hold it steady,
Mhm.
and just do a little.
Try
panning.
not to sing
That's
along.
it. If money's the problem, I mean, you can spend a couple $100 to get somebody to come in and
Well, I'm going to drop over this a little B-roll of the footage that you got from your iPhone of the venue that I'm using for my promotional videos now, and I'm dropping them. And I mean, it does not mean that you have to spend a bunch of money. I'll even drop the link to this tripod that we're using. You could even have a little tripod, just set it up. It's like $30 on Amazon. Grab it, say, hey, go set this up. Just put me in and just hit go for the next 10 minutes, and then bring it back to me if you don't mind. Make sure you don't pick the drunkest person in the room to do
Yeah,
that.
right.
Or I always like to say, talk to the owners. You don't want to do anything that's not approved. You want to make sure that the venue's okay with you grabbing a little bit of footage. Sometimes that's a little bit of a trick. We've had in our dueling piano club, somebody just throw up a camera and start filming the dueling piano show. And it's like, you didn't ask. And are those performers, when it's your own show, it's a little different, obviously.
Yeah. They're taking that back to China. They're going to open up their own piano bar.
Well, cool. Yeah. So I think, there's a progression as you aspire to be in the piano bar industry. I know how much money you can make as a performer when you go in. It's not just about the base pay. As a gigging musician, the nature of the piano bar and the tip jar, which I know y'all were one of the reasons that we went to go to the song list and what now we call the tip accelerator system that we teach now.
Yeah.
We immediately doubled our tips in our tip jar just by implementing the set list and the request forms, and we just really dialed in the way that we served up the call to action in a piano bar, which is request a song.
Yeah, sure.
But we served it up on a silver platter, like, here are the songs. We made it easy. They sit there and they flip through.
Well, it's so much more convenient with Venmo now too, where they
Yes.
don't even need to get up. I mean, the
Right.
potential for, and some of our best performers are dropping that hint of, oh, I just got a request for this song for $20.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't get the request, they're trying to set up the
Sure.
room, change the temperature a little bit, up, down, whatever they're doing. But now everybody knows to get to the front of the line is at least $20.
So I want to ask y'all, what could we do better? I mean, I know you've seen it all. You see every performer. Some of them are more like in your face. We got $20 for this. I've always been so modest. I know some of us are more modest, and I just feel like, I've gotten better. I typically go, thank you so much for your generous tip, or I might mention the amount, but I don't ever say I have to have a certain amount of money.
Begging is the worst thing you can do.
Right. You
Yeah.
can't see.
Begging or cajoling, any of that pressure stuff, it just step one, throw a party, right?
Mhm.
That's-
Yeah.
make
Quality.
magic,
It's never
throw a
failed
party.
me, and at least my dignity is intact. If I could, did I leave money on the table if I had said $20 more?
Right.
Maybe.
Right.
But I mean, the feedback y'all gave us was set list. Y'all having a song list in the venue would probably help your tip jar, and it did. It
Yeah.
really helped.
And the reason that helps is because it's something we've said from the get-go is we don't like to say no to people.
Right.
If you have a set list, now you've led with what you're strong at.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably not even strong at coming up with songs.
No.
And
Yeah,
so
you're right.
now you're just giving them options of, man, I didn't even think of this song, and they're awesome at playing it.
Yeah.
It's like a double win, right?
Yeah, and I think people are more inclined to give more money to you per request if they know you know it on your list, versus they might give us $1 or $5, just see if so now they know there's a confidence in knowing what that's on the list.
And that's a spin on it too, because I've seen, I think it's Alyssa Musso's favorite thing is to say, if you want this song badly enough, I'll play it badly enough.
Uh-huh.
And
That's cute. Yeah.
she makes a little gimmick with it, and again, the tools you have now to pull up the chords, to pull up the lyrics, to listen to the song real quick on a break. at a certain level of talent, you can pull some shit out of your ass.
I did last night with a song. I literally just listened to it while Cliff was bantering. Slow night. It wasn't important. It was okay that I did this. I would never normally do this, but I was like, listen. Cliff was talking. I was like, okay, I got it, and I rocked out this song. It was Because the Night. And I was like, I surprised my own self.
Yeah, and
but
catching them off guard, just
Yeah.
when you can like literally take something they didn't expect you to do and do it 70%, that's magic.
Well, heck,
Yeah.
we got a request for me to play "Smells Like Teen Spirit," but on the fiddle.
He did that last night.
Fiddle.
And
It's like what?
the phones came out. There was 3 or 4 people just filming the whole thing. I was like, that's actually pretty badass. It's a good idea.
That's the magic moments
You
we're
never
talking
know.
about, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't. We're not going to tell you what it has to look like. It's just
And I think finding what's you're comfortable in your own skin, and then like the format is reward good behavior, encourage, call to action is request a song. I like to put tips appreciated or tips encouraged, the positive language around.
Sure.
But to me, it's like, and I think the money mindset of just in general in life is like money follows impact or quality. So a good quality, people want to reward you with, and that money turns into the reward. And if the energy exchange that we have in this piano bar, if done well, and I think you can dial it in with certain things you say and do.
and
But I think overall quality is
I
like,
think it depends on the type of venue too, right? Because I mean,
Right.
dueling piano bar is a completely different show, right?
Yeah.
mhm.
I mean, there a lot of bantering and begging for tips.
Yep.
From,
Very much so.
the mirrors, walls, the
Yeah.
Shtick.
paying for shit.
Mhm.
You know, that shit would never fly here,
Yeah.
especially in California. You
Sure.
Know? But maybe places in the South or in the Midwest, that shit. I mean, that's exactly what you should.
I
be
love
doing
that
there.
you're talking about that because there is a difference. And so what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that this is more, it's piano bar, which is still all requests, which a dueling piano bar is. But this is more musicianship, more quality of song, less shtick, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean, there can still be that those comedic moments where we might make a character out of and do some birthday, have a girl sit on the piano and do something fun if that's
Sure.
the nature of that performer's show. But I feel like, and maybe this is more inherent to Cliff and I, but I feel like we lean hard into music, the musicianship, and that's what I love about this bar
It's like
versus a dueling
You
piano.
can just leave
bar.
the shtick to Jason Lives. He'll take care of that for you.
Well, I mean, there's a line somewhere, and I feel like it's somewhere around where dueling bars have that. Oh, I've got $10 to play this song.
Mhm.
$11 will make me stop it. And
Mhm.
it's like that.
I hate that.
I hate that.
It's
That's
terrible.
that's kind of the line
It's a
for
negative tone, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
for
I
us.
do that a lot in Vegas, and I feel like Vegas is very inherent to like that whole like people just have lots of cash, and it works. It can work in Vegas, but
Yeah.
it does not work in other markets. Like at Willie D's at the piano bar in Little Rock where we met, it's we don't do that. We don't stop the song for It's just it really becomes a deterrent. But then you go to the Dueling Piano Club in Claremont at Piano, and they have a big red button where you stop. And it goes ding, 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 and you stop, and they've made this, but they have trained their staff on, or their team, on exactly how to make sure that's part of the show. It's so inherent to their show now that they would not do it. So,
For us, it just takes away from the person
Sure.
who made the original request.
Right.
That's exactly my point, because it's like, it's the only time it does work, even in piano bars, when you're doing like the fight songs,
Yeah.
they're paying for something because it's their teams and
Yeah, that's a good
that's a
example.
different thing.
Yeah.
But for a song, if someone brings up $20 and then someone else brings up 50, and then you're like, I'll stop the song, but it's like that
poor $20 person.
yeah, that's $20. That's a
That's-
big request. And someone slinging around a 50 or 100, I bet the 20 means just as much or more to that person than that 100.
Right.
It's
100%.
like, I do want to ask, so when you got in, backtracking a little bit, when you got into the red piano, I didn't know it was already the red piano, but the decor, the aesthetic, the pictures on the wall, the mirrors, was that already a part of that?
No.
Was that all you? And where did that come from?
That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that. Yeah, we definitely wanted to put our own fingerprint on the place. I mean, I think we had maybe a bit of guilt because it was taken completely and just
Well,
like
and
cookie cutter, like,
Yeah.
now,
copied from Yacht's.
the inside of
experience.
the original red piano was an outside European cafe look.
It's called the Grand Cafe.
So,
Okay.
so the tables that are up against the walls that had those mirrors that look like windows,
Yeah.
and then they had a little roof over them, like it was on a street,
Mhm.
and
They're like vines hanging.
kind of painted on the wall. I mean, it was like
Of course.
stucco, and
That's St.
I'm
Martin.
so glad.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like us. And a friend of ours was, she'd actually done some work for me, design, like interior design on my house, and she picked all my clothes.
Trust you.
Yeah.
Trust you.
And I was like, all right, Cam, do you want a bigger project? We're looking at redesigning, and we didn't even have the back half where the pool tables are. That was an add-on.
Okay.
And so at the same time we expanded to the second room, we had the opportunity to redesign.
It's got a
it.
burlesque vibe, much more so than, I don't know. I don't see it too many burlesque photos
It's
in here.
It's down there.
You
It's
can go with
Yeah.
the
Yeah, it's still there.
topless, no nude here, but
There's a little bit more.
We did put a poll in this one.
No, yeah, we used to, oh my gosh, we had a poll. Oh, we had so many
If you-
crazy times.
if on the wall, Pam, she got all these 1920s photos.
Yeah.
And she actually did a photo of herself. So
Snuck one
on
in
the
there.
wall,
Oh, I love
she
it.
snuck in a picture of herself. It's
I love
awesome.
it.
And then we flew her out here to help us get this one sorted out too. With we put a California spin on this, and Jay's really good at finding antiques and just stuff like all these sconces.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know
so
where he found them, but
I know y'all talked about doing a calendar at one point. I just had a thought. It would be cool if each of your performers
Every year,
were like
now.
dressed up in the burlesque style, but it could be comedic tongue in cheek, or it could be
for
like
sure.
owning it and just
I
ha
can't
ha,
wait to
you
see
know,
what
like
you do with Click.
yeah, no.
Just wait.
It's for the calendar. It's for the calendar.
It's for the
I'm sure we'll do it for
I'm
charity.
sure charity. We got to get a charity involved, and then we can all say it's for good cause.
But yeah, we sat down with Pam and talked through the kind of all the ideas and the oldest original piano bar in our heads in St. Maarten, which is half French and half Dutch, was the old French bordello, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And the Folie Bergère and just that sexy.
I love it.
We started a bar that we like to drink at, and our friends like to drink at, and we could help everybody get laid at. And so it felt like it leaned into the right tone.
Well,
Just upscale enough, but down and dirty when you want it.
So what was the secondary room before?
It used to be the tennis pro from the resort's office.
Okay.
much more exciting.
Because
Well, they threatened to rent it out to a pizza place.
Oh.
I just didn't want a neighbor putting smells or
Putting smells.
But
I like
smells in my
just,
bar.
Yeah, right.
messing with our traffic, and just so we didn't necessarily want or
going all
thought we needed
stinking
to
up the
rent,
place.
But,
Especially with that French cheese.
Oh God.
but yeah, no, it worked out quite well, and just having a calmer, more quiet side, giving people that option to not be right in the middle of the party and not
Yeah.
be.
No, it works so great too.
It's a nice
Yeah,
balance.
Well,
It's fun. It's fun when we play there. It's like, someone will request a song, and we know to see. Obviously, we can't see back there, but we'll be like, who requested this one? And then we'll hear screaming
Back.
I did.
From the-
They're just back there playing pool, having a good time. So it's fun having that little space back there.
Yeah, but I mean, we were really intentional when Jay found this spot. That idea of a long, narrow room,
Mhm.
the piano attached to the bar. There's some ingredients that we need in the main function of.
I love that you brought that up. I think
Yeah.
that long, narrow, which increased proximity, it's the closeness. If you have a big room, it's like we're almost tribal in a sense. Like humanity needs to be together when we're singing along, and it just spreads, and this big fun party happens in a small space.
Keeps it intimate.
Yeah, intimate.
On a Tuesday when we have 30, 40 people, you can still make it feel packed if you,
Yeah.
as a piano player,
Right.
as the
Mhm.
bar staff, you
Yeah.
position the people.
Hmm.
And then on Saturday night when we have 200 in here,
Mhm.
it's still,
Yeah.
it still works. So
Well, I can't thank y'all enough for everything that y'all have done to continue. I know how hard y'all work, and so we've evolved. I've been for 13 years going to the island. I mean, people go, "How'd you ever?" I mean, number one, how'd you figure that out? How did you get that gig? And I
Yeah.
kind of give them my little Cliff's Notes version of like, well, I found an agent, and but the piano bar legacy that y'all have really just brought to the world is pretty incredible. And then I know y'all took from the Caribbean, which we go every November. So we live in November. We were in the Caribbean, and then we're here. We're Californians for a month in July every year, which is a beautiful life to have. Y'all came out here. I don't know, real quick, how did y'all decide to come to Santa Barbara and evolve to this point? And then my next question is going to be, advice to future entrepreneurs or anybody looking to do piano bar. Where do y'all see the industry and your business growing? But first of all, how did y'all get here to?
I mean, I was stationed out here in the military back in the early 90s.
Oh, okay.
and we used to come down to Santa Barbara and chase girls, and just get into shit. And I ended up coming down and seeing Elvis Costello play at the Santa Barbara Bowl one night. I was like, holy shit! Just completely, I'll never forget it. It changed my life. And ever since then, after that show, I always said that I'm going to go back to Santa Barbara.
Okay.
And after being in the Caribbean for, I guess we've already been there almost 10 years, maybe. There was a couple med students. There was one med student with his wife down there that lived in Goleta, and they're like, "Well, we're getting ready to leave."
More than that, because he goes back for his 10-year anniversary.
Oh, maybe.
It's 10-year reunion.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I just got talking to them, and I was like, "Well, maybe one day we'll bring a red piano out there." They're like, "Hell yeah, bring it out! That'd be awesome." And so it just kind of made it happen. I mean, I started in San Diego, and I knew I was going to kind of work my way up. I did some research. I found out where there was a piano bar, where there wasn't. Santa Barbara didn't have one. San Diego did have the dueling place. I think one other one, small one. But I think I had already had it in my head that I was going to come up here. So once I got up here, we just I mean, Paola and I were walking down the street, and I walked in front of this place, and they were playing good hip hop music in here. This is the club that was here, but it was completely empty. The DJ was killer, but the place was empty, and I was like,
That's it.
and I walked by, and I was like, wait a minute. And I brought Paola all the way back. I was like, you know what? This is the kind of place I'm looking for right here. Is because you can see this owner does not give a shit anymore. They're done because they're in the middle of the busiest block on State Street. And I was like, this is it. So we went and had dinner, came back here, and talked to the door guy, who's still a good friend of ours that we see all the time. And said, man, you guys were still playing some great music. And he's like, yeah, man, come on in. And so we came in and sat in. And at this point, I wasn't drinking anymore, but Paola was. And she ordered a shot of Don Julio 1942 from the bartender. And the bartender was like, wow, that's good. It's really, you got good taste. And we started talking, and we told him what we were doing. And I said, yeah, we're just kind of scoping out, locations. He's like, did somebody tell you I was selling? I was like, I didn't even know you were the owner. And so that just evolved.
I just got chills. That's so cool.
And so the next day I went out and had lunch with him.
Awesome.
And made it happen.
And that's been 8 years ago. It was pre-COVID.
That's 9 years ago now, probably 9 or 10, 9.5 probably.
We got the keys January 1st, 2016.
Well, y'all have got it now down to the model, and you've got the business going. So where are y'all headed? Where are you headed?
No, I mean we're still looking. I mean California's. I mean we're learning more. I mean we love it out here so much. You and I have had conversations about this. It's such a beautiful place, and there's so much to do. I don't know if that's what's kind of deterring the nightclubs and bars from filling up. There's a lot of musicians and big bands that tour that are pulling LA out of their.
Really?
Out of their list.
I've heard that, yeah.
And that's interesting because, back home and there are, I would say post-COVID, I think we've all kind of been pushing a boulder up a hill, and it feels more normal this year. And I mean, we've seen good success, but there's certain cities that are still killing it and doing really well. And so, I mean, I think some of those are more touristy markets. Obviously, this one is touristy, but it's
that's what we look for.
Our tourism numbers are down in Santa Barbara.
Okay.
So that with the hotels, there's struggles there, and it's a small market on a good day. So it's probably time for us to
now, are y'all thinking you gonna keep this one going?
Yeah, well, I mean, this one's doing great still.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
it could be doing better, but I mean, it does good enough where it's a staple here in Santa Barbara now. I mean,
Sure.
We do a lot of nonprofit work.
Yeah.
We really we've got a great team, and it really feels like we're part of the community here. So we don't want to mess with that, but.
And we can't really move and open another one until this one's done, right?
Yeah.
We're still working on it. It's a daily battle for us. So, but we're trying to these classes and stuff we're taking right now. We're trying to grow it and make it scale.
Learn how to scale it, how to bottle it up, and replicate it. Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see where y'all end up because we're gonna be
There's a couple
behind you on your coattails, going, okay, sign us up.
And y'all are so forward thinking, and I think every move you make it seems to be the right move somehow. You just.
Hang on long enough. Eventually, you're right.
Well, and it's like you do the research. You go above and beyond yourselves.
And we're not trying to try stuff, man. To try and fail is better than to not try and just think you get good ideas, but
Yeah.
you never give them a shot. So it's
Awesome.
Well, I mean, y'all tried on us. I don't know if we were the first duo that you brought in St. Martin, but
Oh yeah, that's a good angle to.
I don't know if we were one of the first or the first in St. Martin to be a duo. But
Right,
yeah, I would think
y'all were already out here. We're just gone from St. Martin at the time, but that was almost 9
2016.
years ago.
That was 2016. You were still there.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
2016. No,
2015.
I only remember seeing Drew there, so
Yeah.
I don't.
Which, by the way, we did mention Drew. Shout out to Drew Zollers, who was
Yeah.
one of the. So he was
And
a
Marie.
partner and owner, and Marie. Oh, gosh, we love Marie.
Yeah.
But Drew is now still owning the piano bar in the Caribbean, and he joined y'all as a partner at some point in the evolution of all that.
I left in 2011, 2012, and that's when Drew.
Okay.
became my
Yeah, I meant to
partner.
ask that question because he's
And,
now Ohio boy himself, and you're Canadian
Canadian.
and Missouri,
St. Louis,
St. Louis. Well, cool. Any advice to other entrepreneurs, anybody looking to invest in piano bars or start one? Because I mean, I've seen so many people go, I'm going to go open a piano bar. And then they go make it a sports club and a piano bar. And it's like three in a restaurant. And it's all these things. And they try to change things. And I imagine, like, to me, there's probably some things that inherent to the business that.
I mean, have focus, and I think we've done a couple of projects where, like, Jay and I had a restaurant together, and it wasn't our passion, wasn't our focus, and it was an interesting project for 2 years, but drained energy and time from where we were really passionate and good at other stuff. We've done another bar in the last year here in town, and we didn't really have a clear value prop defined on that, so we're seeing things we're learning there with the struggle, but I mean, the easiest one is when you see somebody that just wants to go open a bar because it sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Just send your
Build
money.
it and they will come. No, build it and they will.
Just send your money and you'll lose less if you
Yeah.
just send it over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody said if you're thinking about opening a piano bar, it was actually Tammy Tanner talking to our group of colleagues, like piano players specifically. She was saying to us as piano players, if you think about opening a bar yourself, you might as well take $50,000 and put it in the floor and set it on fire. You'll get more gratitude out of that, or more satisfaction out of that than what you're about to put yourself through. And her point was, you don't know the bar side. And back to the whole thing, it's like, yes, we know the show, but unless you're aligned with a team who understands the business model of driving profitable revenue in a bar and know the bar side, then you're going
The
to
joke
be.
is usually if you want to make a small fortune in the bar business, start with a large one.
Well,
Actually, I mean, the best thing I would think for somebody, if they're truly wanting to open up a piano bar, go work in one for 3 months. Be a bar back in one, volunteer. See how you like it.
and I always tell people who are getting into it, just because you think you can put a piano in a room and you could have everything, but then if you don't have the talent lined up to be in there, you can put a bad performer up there and it's your first impression is ruined. You're going to make a name for yourself that you're going to be trying to recover for months, if not years, if you do it wrong out of the gates. So finding a good team of leaders in the industry from the performer side is critical, I feel.
Yeah, and I mean, we're available for those conversations. So.
Sure. Well, I'd love to.
We've been copied.
Yeah.
We've been copied. Yeah.
Are y'all open to investors reaching out if y'all are there? They're thinking, okay. I imagine y'all are, because I hear the wording about scaling and you're getting ready and you're doing these things, and maybe somebody could reach out and say, hey, I love what you're doing.
Yeah, we've had conversations with companies that specialize in franchising, stuff like that now, that are very eager to get us on board. They love what we do, and they see the potential it has. So I get a phone call.
Well, I just got more chills.
Yeah, I get a phone call every couple of weeks from.
Well, and I think
especially.
just to drive it home on why I think that, first of all, this podcast episode is going to be good too, to get the exposure out there, because dueling pianos is something a lot of people know. This is different.
Yeah.
And I love that it's different, and it's something that should be scaled and replicated. I mean, I think of the Howl at the Moons that have been so massively successful, and they've become so corporatized that some of the secret, when they've scaled, I think there's inherent issues when you scale to a massive level that sometimes that grassroots feel sometimes gets lost. And so
that personal.
Yeah. So I think there's, on the flip side for them, it's been, their show has evolved and it's different than a lot of these more smaller dueling pianos clubs. But regardless, scaling a model that works. This is so different. It's not really been scaled in a way that I think it has massive potential.
Yeah.
And so on our end, I'm like, okay, how do I get all these performers ready to work with y'all? That's where my passion lies. Is like, I've got this skill set that I took 20 years to develop. And how do I teach that in courses and then let them see my show and audit their show? And what can I do virtually so that we can scale that?
But also, how do we level up ourselves?
Oh, yeah,
and
always.
continue to grow.
Yeah. Well, I think, and then, asking for feedback, that was the one, I was like, what are my notes the first night? Give me my notes.
Yeah.
I think that's something I teach people is like, be willing to accept criticism, but ask for it, because I don't know how often performers do that. And I'm sure y'all have plenty of things you're like, I wish they would just stop doing that, or this one little thing that they could fix,
Yeah.
especially
We're
early
not
on.
usually too shy to tell.
Yeah. True.
I mean, it comes right down. Again, I mentioned it once. It comes. You can see it in the sales at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And it's especially post COVID. We're in a time where it's every day matters.
Yeah.
It's we can't, if we go a full month with a shit performer, we're not paying bills.
Well, and I tell another way of putting it through the lens for a performer is that you are actually an alcohol salesperson. You are not a singer. You're not a piano player. You're not an MC. You are an entertainer that is there to keep butts in the seat. But what is it? Well, they probably charge to cover on the weekend, so maybe your revenue is that. But it's keeping them there drinking for hours on end, which is one of the massive successful metrics of a piano bar, because if done right, they'll stay for hours and live track of time and then keep ordering more.
And I mean, the menu's evolving. If we have less people in California drinking, we're getting a bigger non-alcoholic section in the menu. So there's that side of our business, but the piano player definitely.
Yeah.
Keep them there. Keep a glass in their hands.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's our job to find the right products put them on the menu, but it's your job to keep them there, engaged, ordering more, sweating, dancing, getting thirsty, getting excited about cheer toasts and all that kind of stuff. That's how the business works.
So, AI. It's about
It's the
to
future.
change the world. It's the future. And I know we're all like, all right, I stay in a positive space about it, but there's going to be some fallout. There's going to be some massive shifts in the next 3, 2. I mean, it's already shifted if you really look at a lot of the things. Where do you think that it's initially going to impact y'all? And then how do you stay excited about,
Pros and
writing
cons.
Yeah, pros and cons.
It sure makes writing a lot easier for us, that's for sure. But I mean, I don't know. I think people have different opinions about it. I mean, I know a lot of jobs are going to be lost because of AI, but I think there's going to be jobs created as well at the same time. I mean, the way I look at it, I mean, and I don't know if you're the same with it, but people still want to go out and have experiences, and it's stuff like coming to a bar like that, which I don't know. I mean, maybe this generation or just wanted Netflix and chill, or, and maybe it is a decline in this kind of stuff. But I think businesses like this, I would like to think that they're still going to be, around and create value.
Sure.
For people, excitement, energy, good times for good wellness, blow off some steam, right?
I think people are always going to want to feel special, and I think that's what we do here. I know that's what we do here on a daily basis, whether the guest or but what the delivery is going to look like going forward and how people want to feel special, I have no idea what that's going to look like. And I mean, for some of the stuff we've looked at over the last year, whether it's more mechanical drink preparation, so a robot building drinks and people inputting it from a QR code they scan from their phone. As two guys that have spent a bunch of time in bars, that's not how I want to go out to a bar. I love that bartender interaction, but I mean, we've been looking at that stuff. Does it make more sense to have the drink mechanically made and then have hosts running around? You need
crazy.
the personal touch, but then I know we were talking the other day about going into the sort of a meta situation and
AR and VR,
virtual piano bar. I mean, when you start getting there, it's definitely different for the venue as to, are we building a virtual red piano and then we can literally let people decide on what they want the room to look like, which performer they want playing, what their request is. Are they sitting at the piano, or are they sitting at
User generated and all of that, yeah.
So when you start getting to that level, I mean, I know anything's possible, but it just seems a long way away from what we're currently doing.
And I see this almost, kind of looking at it as fashion trends, like everything. There's a trend of things that happens with low cut jeans right now for whatever reason are back. But I think that but I think piano bars, there's always going to be a nostalgia, and I think there might be some lows, but I think it'll even as much as AI comes into the scene, this will feel so nostalgic and so real, and I don't think it'll ever go away. Even 100 years from now, I still do believe there will be. Yeah.
I think there's something so magical about what it is, using pop music and pop culture coming together, human to human. I think that's going to be hard to replicate. Now, we might become hybridized, right, and have some inserts and, become more, access the cloud. Maybe I'm going to be a better performer because I can just have unlimited knowledge and play anything you ask me. But the wit and all of that with the human performer.
Say quick wit, right?
I think my biggest fear right now is the economic shift it's going to have on the world in the shift, because it'll all kind of settle out into what the new normal will be, but that's what and nobody knows. And so I think, just being forward thinking and always innovative and creative like we all are, it's just like that's probably going to be the best way to figure it out. But I don't know, it's scary, but it's also exciting because I think about something.
It's either stay on that train or you're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
It's going. It's coming out the track. Yeah.
Well, thank y'all so much. I mean,
for sure.
It's been 13 years of an awesome life to have the Caribbean and now Santa Barbara and wherever y'all go next.
Yeah.
I told Cliff I want to get to a financial place where we can invest and become like, an investor in the next one. So putting that into the universe,
Yeah, sure.
But
I think we'll probably have a part 2 of this.
Yeah,
we
part
probably
two.
I want to get into the fun stories that I've
Oh, yeah.
Different podcast.
different podcasts.
Yeah.
That's going to be the R-rated version.
Man. I don't
Right.
remember most of those, man.
Yeah.
Well, the way we're investing right now is giving resources and building out resources for musicians to learn how to do this and to get into the
And we
piano
really
bar.
appreciate that because we need improved more better
Sure.
talent. It's super critical what you guys are doing. So we really
Well, thank you.
appreciate
And also another shout out to y'all for being a sponsor on the Piano Ladies Conference, because that's another resource to the industry. It's been magical to have these girls come together every year, and then they're booking work and they're leveling up and they're seeing where the benchmark is. And I mean, things like this podcast, but just the panels we do. And I'd love for y'all to come to Nashville next year.
Yeah.
Maybe we have an owners panel where y'all sit and talk like kind of this, but
Yeah, sure.
maybe we have more. Maybe there's 3 or 4 of y'all. I know there's some other companies in Nashville that would be interested in having those conversations from an owner's perspective, not
Yeah,
just
sure.
agent, but owner. So
Grab that guy from Savannah Smiles. He's smart.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
He's super smart.
yeah. I'll ask y'all about who your dream panel would be if you were going to be on that panel, and maybe we can make it happen. Yeah, I mean, I know Pete's is a great duo. They were one of our big sponsors, and they're opening up a club in Nashville,
Yeah,
dueling pianos.
Is pizza one off?
Yeah.
There's a lot of different owners that I'd love to bring on that panel, but y'all would be my number one for sure. 'Cause, specifically, this concept is really important for the girls to hear, and just anybody in general to understand the difference and knowing and preparing for this venue versus being a chameleon of, going and doing the dueling piano show is one thing. Doing a show here has another skill set.
Yeah.
So, well, thank y'all so much. And how can they find you? Social media, websites. Where's
all the socials.
RedPiano.com.
theredpiano.com, Facebook, Red Piano. Now there are 2 Red Pianos, so you'll see the one with the SXM means the St. Martin. So give them a follow as well. But
Not the one
definitely
in Vietnam. There's one.
Yeah.
I haven't figured that one out yet.
Oh wow.
That was there first. That was there before us.
I love it. Well, go give them a follow, and you guys will stay tuned to the next podcast. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll do part 2 one day. Maybe next year
sure.
we can check in, and I'm sure a lot of it will have evolved.
It's evolving quick.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.